Welcome to DKM episode 31, ladies and gentlemen. Kenny won't be joining us today. He's a little busy with something right now. So it's just gonna be us flying duos, Daniel and I, two homeboys, just doing our thing. So Daniel, I'm sure you know what I thought about E3, but I really enjoyed how smooth it was. Everything was great. Nothing too exciting. It was just a very slightly subpar E3. I enjoyed it quite a
I
lot.
mean, when you say like E3 ran smooth, that's the thing though about because obviously because of what's been going on lately. And I think this is going to be the next trend now. We're not going to be doing the whole like stage show thing. At least I hope not, because I think most of us would agree. At least the gaming side of E3, because remember E3 also is focusing on the stock investors and things like
Hmm.
that. I think a lot of us would agree that we just prefer presentations because you can edit them out. You don't have any potential technical fuck ups and things like that. Because I don't know if you remember a lot of like technical fuck ups that happened on the stage
Right.
show. I will never forget the first time Miyamoto was showing off Skyward Sword, and this
Oh
was the game that
yeah.
they really wanted to sell that Wii Motion Plus. Like, this was it. This was what the Wii was mounting to. It's not a glorified gimmick. Like the Twilight Princess was, the Wii remote shaking was just a glorified button press. This was like the game that made the Wii remote worth it, but it just didn't work. Like, it was so bad that like Miyamoto had to talk to the translator, and the translator had to go on the stage and say, "Hey, is anybody using Bluetooth right now? Can we like turn that off because there might be some
Yep.
interference?" It's not even just Nintendo that fucked that up. I mean, remember that this Uncharted 4 fuck up where they're starting out the demo and it's Nathan like walking through a door, and then later he's at the store at like this marketplace, and he's just standing still, like he's not moving or anything, and everyone's just kind of like, okay, are they just showing off the AI or
I
something? And then it just like
think.
reboots itself.
Oh no, I don't remember.
Yeah,
No, I don't think I've seen this.
it wasn't like a really gigantic fuck up, but it was more like, okay, like that was a technical issue. Like, apparently the controller they were using wasn't charged or something, and they had to like swap it out. And like it's all those little things as well. So I'm glad that like Nintendo started with like, you know what, fuck it. We don't need to do this anymore. People just want to know what we got to announce. Let's make it direct. Let's edit. Let's make it focused on this and that.
Right. They're taking a lot
I
of
don't need
from.
some.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but they're taking a lot from Nintendo because, like its
Mhm.
namesake, it's direct. There's no nonsense. There's no fillers. Maybe some a little bit with some of the games, but it's straight to the point. And a lot of people are interesting that, hey, like when it comes to, by people I mean companies, gaming companies, people who set up these shows. They're just saying, hey, I mean, it works. People enjoy it, and I think because there's no longer live audience due to the condition the world's in, and still recovering from the crisis that we were in from 2020 until now. Uh, I don't know. Maybe they will do a live audience again in the future. Maybe not as big. Who knows? But I will say that I'm sure you enjoy it. I enjoy it just as well. Just direct. Just tell me the news. Just be direct with
Yeah,
me.
just get to the point. Just show me the fucking games already. I don't need, a fucking Just Dance number. I don't need a fucking Connect showcase. I don't need Xbox telling me about fucking television. Just show me the fucking games, because that's all we want to watch.
Right. I will say though, when it comes to live performances, I honestly, I've never been a live audience member when it comes to watching these E3 things, which I can enjoy choreography and maybe a dance routine a lot more in person. But when it comes to just online, I'm just not convinced. You know, I prefer watching plays in person because it just feels a lot more authentic to me. I'm interested in watching one of my middle school friends. He does he does plays, and I honestly prefer watching his plays in person. It's just it's more of a me thing. But when it comes to the live performances, most of your viewership comes online. So honestly, like you got to give the people who are attending in person their money's worth. So obviously, it's something you got to take if you're just a digital watcher. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like that if you were asking like the non like like asking the just like guys like you and me going to those presentations, imagine like sitting there and you're just like, oh boy, I can't wait for Bethesda to announce a new game, and it's like, oh boy, they're bringing out a band to perform a song for Rage 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yippee. Like, Can we get back into the actual game announcements? Or remember the Last of Us 2 presentation? Everyone had to go to this fucking tent
Right.
just to be immersed into the experience.
Right.
So some guy with a guitar comes out and be like, look, guys, I can play the guitar. It's related to The Last of Us. All right, now everyone get back up, go walk back to the stage. And I'll just be like, I would be fucking annoyed at that point and be like, man, I should have stayed fucking home.
Correct me if
At
I'm
least I could go
wrong.
take-
Yeah, I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think during the God of War 4, like the first ever like announcement ever that they ever had at an E3 at a live show, they had a little mini orchestra there that played the music, and then the trailer came in before or after, I can't remember, but I'm not sure if you ever watched, or I mean, if you ever attended an orchestra. The music there is just so much more powerful when you attend. So I honestly don't mind, much like attending a live concert. It's a whole lot different than listening to what's that argument a lot of people say, oh, why go to a live concert when you could just listen to their things, the perfect edition, the way they the most perfect way they can make this song in the studio, because they've done like 200 shots, 200 recordings, and they pick the best parts. And I'm like, but the live show is different, it's not really the same. It's like with basketball, right? Like,
Well, what about live albums? What's your take on those?
I like them, especially if they're like, let's just say you and I are a band, and we have five albums, right? And we start playing
Like studio albums.
right. We have studio albums, right? But we obviously have live performances. One thing I like about live albums is, and this is the only thing I really enjoy about it, is like, hey, we're dropping a new album right now, and then they start playing the entirety of the album, and everyone's like, oh wow, this is new music right now in our faces. And I can really enjoy live albums like that. But one thing I don't enjoy too much is just like, hey, if let's just say a random artist plays one album entirely and only that, but doesn't mix and match. Obviously, get some of the best from here, some of the best from this album, and this and there. But that's just my take on it. But I think live performances are great if they actually put proper talent and proper choreography into it, because it really does change the experience in person, especially if it's orchestra. I really recommend anyone who's listening to our podcast. Sure, orchestra might be its own thing when you listen to it, but when you go out attend a concert, it's a whole different feeling. It's much like NASCAR. NASCAR in person, holy cow, dude! Just I think it's a waste of time and money, but when you attend it, feeling the power of the engine, feeling the speed in which the cars pass you, it is a whole different experience. You're like, wow, this is loco. Or even watching sports in person, it's a whole different experience than watching it on TV. But that's just my take on live performances. Obviously, I prefer.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you got to be there to really understand it. It's actually funny because I've never actually seen a band or musician perform live, like a particular artist that I care for. I remember I wanted to see Paul McCartney when I was a kid. I never really had a chance. I mean, then again, most of my artists I listen to are either dead or they're not performing anymore. I was just thinking about, because the reason I bring up like live albums is lately I've been listening to this Jackson's live album, which is interesting because it came out in '81, and this is after Off the Wall came out. And it's so interesting to hear like tracks from like the album Off the Wall, including the song Off the Wall, but it's performed with Michael and his brothers like playing the instruments, and it's singing. And and there's also, I remember reading this article about like the truth of live albums. Like they'll say like, oh, this was recorded in '81 at Memphis or something like that, but it was actually recorded here, because they get the benefit of like, we could take the better of best recordings of a tour in particular, But yeah, to say my point, like, I think that the reason why people like me just get really annoyed is because we just think it's cringy. Like, there's certainly a charm with it. If you're watching those presentations live with either a Twitch chat or with your friends especially, you guys could just point and laugh and be like, haha, they made a cringy joke and it didn't play out. Like, oh, that's dumb and stupid, haha. But, when you're just, like, kind of sitting there, you're like, all right, I guess I could go take a piss real quick and I won't miss a damn thing.
Right.
But, that's just my point. I just prefer, it's like, hey, we want to talk about the games, get to the fucking games. So
right.
I guess we should segue that into actually talking about the announcements.
Oh,
boy. Let's start with the Summer Game Fest, because that came first. And honestly, though, that's when the excitement started. Okay, I think you and me we already know what game we want to talk about. But anything you saw at Summer Game Fest, or anything you saw that kind of looked interesting to you? Because honestly, though, I didn't watch much of it. I only saw that game, which I'm hiding it very clearly. that's like the moment I tuned into that live stream, that game was shown off. I was like, okay, that's cool. That's all I needed to see, and then that's how the show pretty much ended for me.
Right, of course. So first and foremost, this is to segue as well to the comment you made previously about jokes and being cringy. One thing I do enjoy about certain game trailers or even just anything particular when it comes to a game is jokes or references that is like super super popular when it comes to just with anything. Much like with Battlefield, the new Battlefield coming out, when they reference the whole you shooting out of your jet, pulling out a rocket launcher, destroying a rocket, another jet, then going back into your
Landing
jet.
back into
you
the
see,
jet.
these references are like super great. Obviously, if you're part of the community, if you're part of the that whole group that goes for like trick shots and all that stuff, it makes it so much better. Or if they do a little widge on the little nudge nudge wink, wink nudge nudge.
Yeah.
To like something like a competitive scene or something else or a different franchise, it makes things better. One thing in particular that I liked, that I found funny, was the director's cut for Death Stranding. How the main character saw a box and hid inside of it, much like you know who, like a snake.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny, and I quite enjoyed that little reference because it's a Kojima game, Kojima. Jeez, I'm sorry. Thank you. But I like that. I like these little things. Obviously, Death Stranding isn't a game I've played, but I do enjoy these little references. Another thing I did like was the Season 4 announcements of Call of Duty Warzone. That's because I play Call of Duty daily with my boys, and that's just a me thing. Also, because certain things that they're revealing, I like the zombies in Black Ops. I like the Warzone with certain things they do in Warzone. That's just a me thing. The expansion to Among Us actually is something that is quite interesting. A lot of people make their own custom games, and then now Among Us is saying, hey, we're going to take your ideas and convert them into actual gameplay. And I thought that was actually quite nice because the sloth, what's the what was their the developing studios
Developments.
Inner Sloth, Inner Sloth, I think is what it's called. Inner Sloth is really looking at their community and what they're doing, and they're implementing their ideas into the game and their concerns and all that stuff. So these little things I like, these little updates I quite enjoy.
Those little like acknowledgments of the community, and it's like, hey, we acknowledge you guys, you know. I guess since we brought this up earlier, was Battlefield 2042 announced at Summer Game Fest?
No, I don't think so.
No, it wasn't. It was its own stream, and then they showed gameplay in the Bethesda. I guess we could talk about that briefly. Okay, so for one thing though, yes, I'm happy that we're getting a postmodern setting for a Battlefield game. I just only hope that we could finally step away from that obnoxious bloom color that they use for 3 and 4. Like, if you ever asked me why I could never get into Battlefield 4, especially because I know people swear up and down it's like the best Battlefield game, after the launch and after all the content was
one of the more
it's
the better modern Battlefield.
I couldn't for the life of me get into it. I just couldn't get into the aesthetic. It always gave me a headache, and it always was obnoxious. So my Battlefield of choice was always been Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 after its very questionable PR approaches. Clearly, EA has to be told, given the No Man's Sky treatment, where it's like, okay, just announce the game, talk only about the game, and don't piss off the potential customers. So I looked at the gameplay. It looks kind of interesting. We'll have to wait and see about that. But, that looks kind of dope.
Wingsuits, I like these new mechanics that they're implementing. Obviously, the last time they implemented a battle royale type of game mode into Battlefield.
No discussion of a battle royale.
It didn't really work too well, but I honestly, Battlefield, and I still believe it in my heart of hearts that Battlefield could be one of those games that are gaming companies that can really, really do battle royale right. Much like with Blackout and Black Ops 4, wasn't like really good at all. But
it was okay at the time, but man, after Apex, it was just awful.
But Warzone was innovative in its own way, where you can revive your boys by bringing them back, by buying them back. You have a second chance of staying in the fight by going to the gulag. These little small things. Oh, and also choosing your loadout, choosing your stuff, which changes the meta in such a way where most of these other games don't have.
It becomes incredibly locked in, essentially. Right. That's like, if you don't have X loadout, you're pretty much
Which I
fucked.
will say during this season of Warzone, it's less of that. A lot more guns are balanced. But I honestly believe 2042, if they can implement a battle royale system just right, the way Battlefield does it, much like how Call of Duty tries to do a ground war game mode, but it'll never amount to Battlefield because Battlefield has always
Yeah,
been
I
like
was really
that.
looking forward to that, but it just really didn't do it for me. I was
No,
kind of surprised. Like, as someone who really liked Battlefield 1, especially, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, Call of Duty's kicking Battlefield's ass at the time,
right.
when Battlefield 5 was playing social politics, Call of Duty was like, hey, we're just going to do a Battlefield mode now. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, but
I think
didn't get
also,
really into it.
but Call of Duty's always been more like, hey, you want to play a smaller game mode compared to Battlefield, where it's like, hey, this is like actual like a big
Yeah, it's
war
supposed to
zone.
simulate a gigantic war
Hmm.
of, yeah.
So I think
Um,
that I'm just looking forward for the game. I can't wait to play with friends and see how they implement different classes when it comes to like being a heavy, a healer, I should say, an assault, engineer, and so on and so forth. I'm looking forward to it and all the new stuff they're adding,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it
especially
too.
with the
I'm just more
wingsuits.
curious to know how that tornado thing is really gonna like completely shift the balance of the game. Because it's
Imagine
like,
this. Imagine this. So they're obviously implementing wingsuits, right?
I'm assuming that the tornado is not based on like who's winning. Like the
No.
tornado isn't gonna pick
I,
sides.
I feel like a
Okay,
tornado
because I
is more
remember.
of and this is just my my 2 cents on it. It's a field wipe of all vehicles, and then it becomes
Okay.
a boots on ground only type of combat, and that's why they
Hmm.
implement wingsuits. So like you could fight in the air, you can fight in whatever, and then once everything's back, you have to wait until vehicle reinforcements come back in order to continue the traditional
Fight.
battlefield experience. You know what I mean? Because sometimes some vehicles really give you the upper hand if you put them in the right spot, but if you have a tornado coming in and field wiping it and you have to wait like 5 or 10 minutes for vehicles to come back, I think that's a nice spin on it. But that's just my theory on why the tornadoes is there, also to implement the wingsuit in a very innovative way. But that's what I think might happen.
Yeah, my only thing is that if you're gonna make a game where like your character could elevate at such high, heights,
Hmm.
but they're still fragile enough that if they fall down, they could die. You have to either introduce a parachute or a wingsuit of sorts, so you could like safely land on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Because that's like the most frustrating. That's probably like games like PUBG like really frustrated the fuck out of me because like your character, granted, he could take a fall. It's still like really frustrating because like what's the benefit of climbing all the way up this building if you can't jump off of it? Because now if someone's falling behind you, you're fucked
Well,
essentially.
not just that, but obviously when it comes to let's look at Warzone, right? Since technically this battlefield is going to compete with Warzone, which one of its main competitors. When you parachute in Warzone, you're pretty much an open target if anyone's a good enough shot.
Yeah.
But with a wingsuit, you're gonna be flying at velocities.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
flying. Yeah.
you're gliding at really, really, really fast speeds, which makes it harder for enemies to track you and hit you. So I think hopefully this gets implemented rather well. I'm excited for this wingsuit. Obviously, when I saw it, I'm like, dude, no way they're gonna do wingsuit. They're gonna do wingsuits because obviously in the trailer you saw these guys falling off a cliff, and I see no parachute. But then obviously he hits the character, the NPC
The
hits
wing.
his the side of his body, activates windsuit. Cool, and I love it. I love it. I hope they implement it in a very innovative way. I'm looking forward to it. It makes the games it would make the maps feel a little bit smaller as well because you're able to access, like you're able to go to one part of the map to another part of the map rather faster without using vehicles. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'm just looking for a. I haven't really given a shit about Call of Duty's Black Cold War at all. I completely gave up on that. But just a good old fashioned like big old wars like experience with Battlefield, and in a postmodern setting. A-okay, perfectly fine. If
Hmm.
we already did Battlefield 1 with World War 1, that was a cool experiment. I liked it. I know a lot of people tell me that it really wasn't that good, but for my first true legitimate Battlefield experience, I had a blast with it. I put hundreds of hours into it. Battlefield 5 came out, and aside from its social politic issues and things like that,
Hmm.
I personally enjoyed parts of it, but it also didn't help either that Battlefield 5 and 1 unfortunately though did not run as well after I got my i7. I don't know, maybe because like with Ryzen they try to rework the game to better benefit from higher core counts.
Hmm.
I don't know, but long
Hmm.
story short, I at that point I was like, okay, I had my feeling. I'm gonna look forward to the future. So yeah,
If
so moving on from
Well, to
Battlefield. Oh,
close it off, I think if I had to compare
mm-hmm.
Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1 to anything, I like to compare it to the Halo games. Um, because Halo 4 and Halo 5 didn't really sit too well with the community. So it's still popular, but it's not like the original trilogy game modes, because it basically became a little bit too innovative. So that's how I view it.
Okay. All right. So, anything else announced for Summer Game
All right,
Fest
in Summer
aside
Game
from?
Fest, that was really it. The updates to Among Us, Call of Duty, and the director's cut for Death Stranding, where it becomes more, instead of becoming an Amazon delivery boy, you're now stealthily doing certain tasks where you're trying to really, really not get caught, which I've always liked.
Oh,
I've
really?
always liked. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't quite understand what was just a director's cut mean exactly. Is it like more content, or is it just
More
like,
content,
hey,
yeah.
we're porting it over? Oh, okay. Is it okay? So are they gonna re? Because all I heard was that it's coming to PS5, but does that mean like the content will also be included in other versions of the game,
I'm not too sure
or
about that because it was just a trailer. They didn't.
it was very
Right,
okay? I'm assuming that details will come out
but
later.
one detail that was true, and they did mention this in the trailer, is it's going to be more stealth oriented when it comes to just completing the game. One thing
Okay.
specifically is I've obviously, after the whole the wink wink nudge nudge to the references to the Metal Gear series with the box. Obviously, one big part of Metal Gear is to stealthily do what you need to do, and I
Yeah.
think this is something a lot of people would love, because it's a whole new experience with Death Stranding. Because obviously, Death
Yeah.
Stranding isn't so much of a hey, I gotta be sneaky type of gameplay. You know, it's just getting
It's really fascinating how like a simple change in a game design could change it from, this used to be a power trip game to all of a sudden become a survival horror. It's
basically.
really
Yeah.
fascinating, really.
And then obviously, my only tiny Tina's Wonderlands. When I saw Andy Samberg was a voice actor, I got excited. I'm like, oh, this game will probably be interesting to play. But this is just me being optimistic for a game that obviously I have no idea about. It's a new IP, so I can only be hopeful. You know, I can only be
Well, wait, Tiny Tina is from Borderlands, isn't she?
yeah, I think so. But I
Okay.
don't know exactly what it is, because I don't.
You never played
Nope.
You never played
No,
Borderlands?
not really. It's never been something that like I've been.
It was fun. I've played the first game with my cousin, local co-op. It was actually pretty fun. And then I played a little bit of Borderlands 2, and that's when I kind of like dropped off from the series. I had my fun with it, but it's clearly one of those games where it's like you need to have a group of friends to play with, because playing it solo is possible, but it's not made for that. It's definitely made for the co-op experience. Okay, so I guess we could just go ahead and move that on to, let's talk about the big game,
The Elden Ring. Yeah.
Elden Ring. It's finally happening, and it's coming out in January,
They announced a
and
release
I'm
date.
excited.
That was
But let's be honest though, it's pretty much what we all predicted it. It is just Dark Souls 4, but open world, and I am not complaining at all. That is exactly what I
I
wanted.
wonder about that, because there's a lot of references in just the trailer alone. That one thing I love about Dark Souls is its lore, even though no matter how confusing it may be, because if the lore isn't every single little item, even to small little positions of a dead character, like, or where they're located, like how, like in Dark Souls 3, why these four specific ashen ones were not ashen ones, but these four specific lords of cinders were revived, and what each character in sided characters have to do with a specific lord of cinder. I like these small little details. I get to play the game over and over again, or you just really, really pay attention to dialogue, really pay attention to item details or spells
Item
or everything.
descriptions
It
and stuff
really,
like.
really makes it all come together, which is why I'm interested in
Also,
what.
to clarify something, Marcos, the reason why you probably hesitant with Ashen One is because the term now they're using is the Tarnished.
Yeah.
So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
a lot of people like me are like kind of confusing the two of them.
Well,
So yeah, the Tarnished is Elden Ring, Ashen One is Dark Souls 3.
right. So the reason why I bring it up is because in the trailer, a lot of the well, one thing I need to clear out is obviously there's a lot of repeat bosses in certain games, like when it comes to the Moonlight Greatsword, it appears in Demon Souls, it appears in Dark Souls, it appears in Bloodborne. You can technically make an argument for appearing in Sekiro, but the item has always existed, but it canonically, there's theories out there that connects all the games together. People believe that in Dark Souls no, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, they're all connected. Obviously, it's pretty simple. Bloodborne is connected because people believe, I forgot the lady's name, but she's painting something specific, and people believe she's painting Yarnum, where Yarnum in and of itself is its own world, which is why there's also dreams in that world where everyone's talking about dreams and being able to wake up, your inner eyes, and so on and so forth. One thing that's really, really enjoyable is in the trailer, there's a lot of references to the Dark Souls series. So I'm wondering if it is going to be a Dark Souls 4, but it's not going to be a what do you call it?
If
Focus
you're
on
asking like
flames,
if it's
on fire. You know what I mean?
like I well to answer that, I don't think that it is going to be connected to it. It is own franchise. It's its own IP. It's its own everything. Now I will say that one thing I've definitely have noticed as I watched the gameplay trailer time and time again is that there is a lot of designs that are heavily borrowed from the previous Dark Souls games. There's a straight up shot where the backside of a knight is almost one to one to Knight of Stora's armor set.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like one to one, which makes me wonder. Like, so I think a lot of people keep forgetting about this, but George R. R. Martin, yes, the guy who did the Game of Thrones
Mm-hmm.
series, he's involved with this, and I'm really curious, like, what is exactly is his involvement? Because I don't know, maybe I haven't watched Game of Thrones or read it or anything like that. I don't know if maybe that the monster designs are hearkening to more that kind of design philosophy, but from what I'm getting at, I see mainly that the world, the gameplay, and the design is Miyazaki's work. But this article I just looked up on IGN, apparently it's going to be much more character focused. It's going to be much more less abstract. So I don't assume. I'm assuming there's still going to be like lore through like fucking item descriptions, like someone's sandal or something. But I'm assuming that the game is going to be much more story focused. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like with Dark Souls 2 with the Emerald Herald,
Mm-hmm.
where she wasn't just like a firekeeper. She's also have a personal attachment to the character, to the throne and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I think that's really interesting. So I don't think that there might be references. Of course, they're going to reference it. I mean, fuck, they have to. But as far as like a direct connection, I doubt it.
Well, speaking just specifically talking about just a trailer, it's just the words that they used. Fire was mentioned a lot.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
basically what I'm trying
Yeah.
to get at. Not spec.
Oh, yeah. Like they'll borrow themes from previous games. Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, I think there's this spider. There's this spider with a human face that appears in every single game. I might be wrong on that, but it appears in Bloodborne and all the Soul series, where obviously Bloodborne is supposed to be its own separate IP from Dark Souls, but the same spider appears there, which
Oh, patches.
patches,
You're talking about patches.
and it connects. That is one of the reasons why it connects the worlds. That's what I'm saying. Like, it could be related to Dark Souls in its own way, but we don't know. Obviously, Dark Souls is the main series. But speaking about references, obviously we already know that Miyazaki takes a lot of, well, not just Miyazaki, but a lot of people take a lot of references from Berserk, from what's his name, Kentaro Miura's work Berserk, and in the
Rest in
trailer,
peace.
yeah, rest in peace. In the Elden Ring trailer, you see a golden tree, and my first thought was in Berserk there is this tree of pure light that happens after the defeat of a specific demon, and it's just you can see all these references in Dark Souls when it comes to the armor, when it comes to the blades, when it comes to to even Bloodborne, the mark, the moon, the eclipse, a whole bunch of things. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really really interested in how they're going to give the respects to Miura after his passing in this game, because obviously in even Miyazaki says yeah, like the game is heavily influenced by Berserk because
It's pretty fascinating when you do like shot by shot comparisons between like manga panels and fucking monster designs in Dark Souls. Like it's pretty crazy. Like there's a shot where like they straight up have the helmet that Griffin wears.
yep.
And it's really intimidating. It's like as I'm watching this, it's like, yeah, this is basically Dark Souls 4, but maybe with a little bit of George R. R. Martin like storytelling. But I think Miyazaki's still gonna be like, nope, we're gonna tell the lore through fucking item descriptions. Then again, that's my theory. That's what I'm interpreting. But
Also,
yeah, I'm fucking hyped.
just to piss off our audience a little bit who do read Berserk. Technically, morally speaking, in my not philosophically speaking, I should say, Griffith did nothing wrong during the eclipse. I feel like anyone put in the position that Griffith was in, they would have done the exact same thing. So that's my 2 cents on it. I hope everyone gets mad at me because I know I'm right. But one thing I will say about Elden Ring is I'm pretty sure. I there's no way that they're not going to give their condolences or just their respects to Miura. There has to be
I think
something.
there's gonna be like a dedicated shrine. I'm gonna
Yeah,
bet that even at the base of the tree, I'm willing to bet they're gonna just practically spell it out that this is a memorial for
like
him.
even some
Um,
enemies like the even in DS1 where there's the skeletons trapped inside that wheel. Legit,
yeah.
that is a Berserk reference, like straight up like copied
No, no,
and
no. I
paste.
of course they're gonna use like berserk designs and things. I'm talking about like referring to the author. Like
Right,
I
right. That's what I mean.
guarantee
That's what I mean.
they're gonna do some sort of memorial for it. Like they're gonna still borrow berserk designs because I think at this point it's ingrained in everybody's mind that there's no way in hell to do it.
Right. But I am
But
interested in this
when I'm
open world idea. I wonder how they're going
That's
to.
where I wanted to get at.
Right.
That's really what's fascinating. So my theory is the way how I'm assuming is that the game is going to be kind of like Breath of the Wild, where it's going to be incredibly open. You're still going to have like these random encounters because we could clearly see in the footage where your character jumps off of her fucking ghost uh, moose and just fucking or deer and then just like strikes down on some enemies and looks like she was like
Right.
trying to rob that luggage, that little cart thing going on with the fucking two giants, like, you know, pushing it around. What I like to see is that there's a stealth mechanic in the game, which is pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. After
Mm-hmm.
playing Sekiro, it makes me really want more stealth mechanics in my fucking Souls
Mm-hmm.
games. um
Which sort of exists
let's
in
see.
Souls, but it's not. Honestly, it's not like the main focus. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
does
like you could
exist.
backstab if you walk really slow, but I'm talking about like crouch walking and
Right.
things
Right.
like that.
I will say though that when it comes to the Soul series, it gave you a story. And anyone who's listening to this recording, I will say this: if you've played Demon Souls when it first came out, or you played Dark Souls when they first came out, and then you play, and then you got tired of it because, hey, I have to play defensively, I have to play like I'm always going to die in one hit. I get that, but if you play Bloodborne, Bloodborne changed the formula a bit, where it forces you, it promotes that you need to be aggressive in order to heal yourself after getting hit. Then here comes Sekiro, right? Sekiro evolves the whole Soulsborne formula because obviously you're stuck on the ground, you're not doing much verticality, but Sekiro did a lot of sneaking and a lot of verticality and movement speed, which is something that we haven't seen from a Soulsborne game, and it makes these. Maybe this is just me being a little bit of a conspiracy nut, but they were experimenting with how this would work with the Souls formula, all this verticality, the sneak,
Well,
the
I could definitely say that after, especially after Bloodborne, I could definitely say that Dark Souls 3 does like feel a little bit faster though.
not just faster,
Like
but
not
you understand that you have to be aggressive now.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm talking about like just like rolling and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably
Mm-hmm.
why like when I went back to play Demon Souls, because I guess they're trying to be faithful to the original. I forgot like how little you roll in that
Mm-hmm.
game. Like you don't really get that much movement, but when you play like Dark Souls 3, like you fucking dive across. You know what I'm
Right. I
saying?
had to tell my friend, like, listen, if you play Demon Souls defensively, you're not gonna have a good time, and you're gonna be playing the game stressed. If you take the approach and you're patient, but you're also aggressive at the same time, whenever it calls for it, the game becomes a lot more enjoyable and easier. But I think with Sekiro, maybe this is just me being skeptical about some things. Like, hey, what if we release a game where we try a new formula where, hey, it's verticality and this and movement speed, and people really really enjoyed it so much that it became game of the year, right? um so I think Elden Ring is going to fall great when it comes to people who love Sekiro, people who love the Dark Souls series, because it honestly borrows a lot from both. And I
Hmm.
do like the whole summoning of your own mount. I wonder how, if there's only one type of mount, if there's multiples, if there's ways to customize that, because obviously if it's going to be open world, imagine this, right? You're starting off level 1, and obviously like in every Soulsborne game, it progresses linearly, right? But since it's open world, can you just go to an area that's like definitely way higher enemies, way higher everything, and because you're a Soulsborne nut, you already know that, hey, I know his movement patterns. I'm just gonna do peanut damage, but I gotta do it right. And then when you kill the person, when you kill your boss, you get a lot more blood points, souls, echoes, whatever, because you basically skipped to like a boss, like the fifth boss, instead of just fighting the first boss. You get what I'm saying? Because
Yeah, you're basically sequence breaking, and you're gonna be having a miserable time, but the payout is gonna be well worth it, essentially.
mm-hmm. So that's what I'm
that's a
saying.
good that's sort of the thing though, because the fact that it is an open world, there's no more of like a way we funnel people into locations. I guess the way how it's going to be played out is that you're going to be riding your deer around. You're going to obviously be exploring and things like that in this gigantic world. But you're also going to have like random encounters and things like that. You probably could just avoid if you want to, but there's probably going to be some form of like risk and reward where it's like, what if like in a situation's like, hey, maybe it's like Souls, where it's like if you die from this random encounter because some giant backside you really hard, and now you have to go, you're spawned all the way back to whatever bonfire you're in. Now you got to get on your deer, you got to ride all the way
Right,
back there,
right.
and then that potentially widens the risk even more.
You've recently,
And you know,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that like with games like with Dark Souls 2, for example, they try to like have their cake and eat it too. They're like, okay, you know, you start Majula, but you also have like two ways you could go. You know, you had the Tower of Hades, which is the one you assume to go, because if you play like Dark Souls 1, you went, okay, higher up is like Undead Burg. Undead Burg is where I'm clearly supposed to go, because you're not supposed to go into the catacombs in the beginning.
Right.
Just saying. And you know, you go up to Heidi and you're just like, okay, this is really bad right now, so I'm gonna go, and you got to go find this little pathway that you can miss completely because your camera isn't focusing on that entryway, right? But then later they also give you the option to teleport, which my problem with Dark Souls 2 is that, you know, you gave me the cake and eat it too, is that you gave me the option to teleport, but now my brain doesn't have to do the work of remembering the map at that point, because I could teleport. I could go back to Majula wherever I want. That feeling of like going from the Undead Burg to the top of the cathedral down to the Unfiling Shrine doesn't happen in that game because there's no need to. You could fucking teleport.
Right. I feel like
Now with Dark Souls,
I feel like mainly the whole Elden Ring experience might be a lot like New Vegas, where once you leave the starting point of the game, you could head straight north to go straight into New Vegas, but you're gonna have a bad time, a really bad time,
Yeah.
a really annoying time. But it is possible if you know how to mid max, if you know how to avoid certain enemies and how to like really cheese it. But you can make it in New Vegas. You could make it in New Vegas.
Yeah.
And guess what?
or it's like
That's what open world
like
is.
games like Chrono Trigger and fucking
Yes. Yes. Yes.
like that. I've always liked games like that where it's like, hey, here's the goal, but do you really want to take that chance? Or Breath of the Wild, for
Breath
example,
of the-
like the game
exactly.
starts out like defeat Ganon, but you could do whatever the fuck you want up to that
You
point.
can even look at speedrunners. They legit skip most of the game because of exploits, because like even cooking is really overpowered in Breath of the Wild, where you can just cook 5 apples and then you eat it, and when you fight Ganon you can like do like 5 times more damage, because why not?
Why not? Yeah,
So I think I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, there's
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hyped.
obviously I think Miyazaki has a monopoly on that type of games, because obviously Neo is fun. Neo's quite enjoyable and annoying at the same time. A lot of these games that try to be like Soulsborne, they're nice, but for some reason, like that excellence, that upper tier Souls-like game can only come from like Miyazaki. It looks like, because it's just the way he does it, the way the team does it, his team does it. It's phenomenal. It's honestly phenomenal.
What is like the
Mm-hmm.
what is like the best like Souls like game that's not made by like From Software? Like, serious question though, because that terminology
best-
gets
what do you
tossed
mean?
around
Can you
so
repeat
much.
that?
Like, you know, the terminology, you know, people say is like Souls like games, you know, like that's such a common thing, which is funny because whenever I think about Souls, like before Souls, I used to think of Z targeting from Zelda games. Like, that's what I used to tell people. It's like, it's kind of the same way.
Right, I get it. Where I think fighting, I think maybe Shadow of the Colossus, but not like that extreme of difficulty. You know what I mean? Because obviously it's just you versus these godlike beings.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a stretch though, because I would say more games like The Surge or like, you know, Neo or.
Right, right. No, I'm thinking
um,
before Souls. Before Souls.
Oh yeah. No, I'm talking about like after.
Oh,
because you know
okay,
it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like.
yeah.
Like, because that's when the terminology obviously came out, is when like after Dark Souls came out and then became this massive hit. Every game that's a third person action game with, you know, with Z targeting and action and combat, everyone likes to say it's Souls like.
It's just because I think it's more of a what's that saying? Best dressed.
It's easier to explain. I guess.
No, it's the first one there and best dressed, so people just see like, wow, this is like an amazing game. and this is an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because people had a great first experience with it, they continue on with it, and they have the little biases. I love Neo.
And they
Neo's
compare it always to
right. So, but I think yeah, I think there's other games that try to be like it, but it's just the way Miyazaki does it. It's just phenomenal, and I can't blame him. Also, when he uses a lot of material from Berserk, because even Berserk, I can quite honestly say it is one of the best, if not the best, manga out there because of how great it is. But that's really my take on Elden Ring. I'm looking forward for more gameplay, more reviews, more anything. But yeah.
Yeah, let's move along. But yeah, I'm definitely really really excited. So yeah, the only other really thing that caught my eye, I don't know if this was announced at I think it was announced at Summer Game Fest, but I think a lot of people are not talking about this. There's this game called Phantom Abyss. It's this first person game where it's kind of like Temple Run, but you have all these friends that are after going as well. But you also have this sort of like Dark Souls experience. We'll circle back with Dark Souls, where you see your previous friends attempt at doing that same dungeon because all procedurally generated, and you see your friend who attempted to jump that cliff. He fucked up because he jumped it from this angle, but you could try from this angle and then you could win. I thought that looked kind of neat. I finally found it. It was kind of frustrating like to Google it because every time I look up Temple running game, it always refers back to fucking Temple Run. But I think Phantom Abyss looks fucking dope.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else did they announce? They put they put a 2B skin in fucking Fall Guys. Holy shit.
I love it.
Dude, like, remember when Nier was like this super niche fucking franchise that, but then Nier Automata came out and 2B's fucking gigantic beautiful cheesecake ass came in, and then that's when everything fucking changed. Now 2B's in everything, and I'm living it for it, man. I'm fucking living it for it.
I love it. I honestly love it, and and I might get back into Fall Guys just to play with friends because it's still a fun game. It's just some people took it too seriously, and then that's what really turns me off from the game. You know what I mean?
I've only played it like once with only two friends of mine. It was the shout out to my boy Soul and Tyson. Soul was streaming it. He asked me, "Hey, do you want to play with me?" I'm like, "All right, cool." And that was like the only time I played it. I don't know. It looks fun, but I never really put much thought into it. But I thought that was kind of charming. Let's see what else. Oh, new Far Cry 6 footage and gameplay has been announced. Now, I enjoyed the Far Cry 3 a lot when it was new at the time. I was really into it. This was before like the Ubisoft open world exhaust started kicking in. I think most people would agree that Ubisoft games are not bad.
Right.
They're just sort of homogenized,
right.
Like they all have the same thing. You all have to go to the towers. You have to collect X item. You have to do the most bare bones of crafting.
Formulaic, very like formulaic. It, obviously, if it ain't broke, don't fix, I guess. But one thing I will say, one of my favorite Far Cries, it's only because of it's more of a moral and philosophical decision, is Far Cry 4. Because if you complete the game by escaping, what's this guy's name? The
Pagan Min,
the quote unquote antagonist,
bad guy.
Yeah.
His name is Pagan Min.
Right. If you leave his thing, and then you what's it called? You overthrow him. You technically made the area worse, a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously became one of those. And then obviously the game came out with the if you actually stay there for 10 minutes, you get the true ending, which is the correct ending actually, because you get to bring your ashes to your mother's ashes where they belong, where she wanted them to belong, and you get to actually complete the actual proper ending for the game by joining this guy's side, because it is what it is. So you can go the entire game doing everything wrong and essentially becoming the bad guy, or you could just be the good guy and just wait 10 minutes because this guy says, "Hey, wait 10 minutes, wait here, I'll be back."
Yeah, but it's really sort of a way to kind of like, I think is subverting the audience at that point, because it's like, you just saw this guy burn down a fucking van full of people and kill someone right in front. Anybody was like, oh shit, this guy's fucking crazy. But if you really think about Pagan, throughout the entire game, he's just like, hey Ajay, what you doing, buddy? Come back. Like, I know I'm kind of crazy, but like I got no beef with you and
Right.
shit. But you know, throughout the entire game, you're basically being deceptive. Like, no, this is what your mom wanted. This is what you wanted. But then you find out that like your dad was actually a massive piece of shit and killed your mom because, or your mom or someone in her family because she cheated on him and blah 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 blah. And you know that's sort of the interesting thing what Pagan was talking about, and that's why the ending I got was that you go fight Pagan Min, and then he says, now we could sit the fuck down, enjoy the dinner, and let's try this again.
Right,
And
and
then
even
afterwards,
even with like the entire time, automatically you have this westernized idea that hey, yeah, this guy's the bad guy because he did this, but there's no context. There's absolutely no context in Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 3. I haven't played the first one. There's plenty of context of why you should go against Vaz in Far Cry 3. Plenty of context, but then you realize that Vaz is just a piece of the puzzle that is basically plaguing the island. But there is context there why you have to go against the antagonist. But in Far Cry 4, there is legit no reason. You're there to spread your mother's ashes, and you're supposed to meet this person. That was the whole point. And then you go there and goes, hey man, here you go. This is what I'm supposed to do. He goes, yeah, no problem.
you just got wrapped up in a civil war because
But you don't know until you realize later in the game, and this is why when I played Far Cry 4, when I escaped and then ended up killing the dude, I realized, wait, I'm the dickhead. Like it was like one of those games where now I have to repeat the game because that's not a satisfying ending in whatsoever. But I enjoyed Far Cry 4. I can only assume Far Cry 6 is going to be. I hope it's when it comes to the narrative, it's
actually,
very. I hope it becomes
actually.
better.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and get with Far Cry 6. So yeah, Far Cry 6 is obviously getting that guy from Breaking Bad who, you know, he's a great actor.
Amazing.
And also he's also has like this physical appearance of like of intimidation. You know, it's like, you know, when this guy's on screen, something fucked up is gonna happen, right? But I kind of like, you know, this is the thing I kind of like about it. I dig the setting. You know, me and you know, as some of you guys know, we're from Florida, and you know, I'm Cuban and things like that, and I was born in Cuba. I've only been to the country once, and you know, I will say that, you know, Cuba, whether politics aside, is a very beautiful country. It's a beautiful, beautiful island, especially when you go to like the capital cities and things like that. So I kind of dig that they're kind of, you know, maybe it's sort of like, you know, that kind of representation I kind of dig with it. But the thing that caught me really interested, that actually I'm more excited more than the base game, is the DLC they announced for it, which I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of an interesting sell. You know, you and me were, you know, Marcos was just talking about like, you know, great villains in the Far Cry franchise. There's an entire DLC expansion where you get to play as Vaz, Pagan Min, and is the main villain from Far Cry 5. Yeah. Now that's brings up my point earlier where it's like, you know, when I was bringing up earlier when we were talking about with Far Cry, is that, you know, the thing was is that if you liked Far Cry 3 and you jumped into 4 immediately, you're not going to get much of a gigantic gameplay improvement. Like, it's just more Far Cry 3. But I remember like there was a review that just said like, you know, Far Cry 4 is great and all, but if you already played Far Cry 3, I don't recommend it because you're gonna get like exhaustion at that point. So I played the shit out of Far Cry 3 and 4. So by the time when Far Cry 5 came out, I was like, okay, this is cool. It's not in a third world country. It's in Montana. It's in, you know, U.S. soil. I could get behind this, but unfortunately though, I couldn't get into it because the game just ran like shit for me, and I tried like so many different ways of troubleshooting and things like that. So that's also another fear that I have about Far Cry 6, is that potentially I might face those same issues, but we'll have to wait and see for that. But
one thing about the DLC I wanted to mention though is obviously people loved the antagonists in Far Cry 3 and 4. They were above and beyond, like they were not only very out of the box, but they were interesting characters. Voss, just even meeting Voss's sister, you get to understand that Voss is in a situation where, like, dang, this sucks, but you have to defeat him. You have to get rid of him. And he is an interesting character, especially even with the antagonist in Far Cry 4. So I'm glad this DLC allows you to not only continue their story and allows you to see...
Oh, but... But that's the thing about the DLC. That's like, this is the bad part though. So here's the thing about like with Voss as a character. The one thing that always bogged the shit out of me about Far Cry 3 is a lot of people forget about this, but there was a lot of weird, psychedelic, trippy
Yeah,
moments of the game
yeah,
where basically the theme is that who's really the psychopath in the situation, Voss or Jason and Voss.
right,
It's two of the same characters, two sides of the same coin.
right,
You know, clearly there's a lot of like visual theming and things like that about like who's really the psychopath and blah 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 blah. But it really didn't amount to anything in the grand scheme of things. Like at the end of the day, it's very black and white. Like yes, Jason becomes a revenge focused psychopath because, you know, after he gets his friends, he could have just said, all right, guys, let's get on the fucking boat and leave. You know, he says, no, I have to stay here because I feel one with these people because I'm a psychopath and I'm killing all these warlords and shit like that.
right.
And, you know, and that sort of thing. So I was like, okay, this DLC at first caught me interested because the way how it was shot made me think like, oh, we're gonna see the events of Far Cry 3 from Voss's perspective. But then later when they showed off that you're also playing as Pagan Min and also Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5, and then they're using all these like weird psychedelic effects, I'm like, okay, clearly the narrative is that these guys are alive again and like they're going to go through like this weird what if scenario. So it's not a continuation off the base game, but I was hoping for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I would have liked to see like what does Voss see in Far Cry 3.
Right,
You know what
and
I'm saying?
I don't mind that. I honestly don't mind that. It helps fill in gaps as well, in the story. It actually makes it a lot more flush, much like with certain movies that get released and then later they get a novel, that explains certain details and in betweens that makes just the whole story as a whole feel more flush, more smooth. Everything becomes way better. I can only be hopeful about that because I really did enjoy Far Cry 3 and 4.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that the way we're gonna, like you said, that we're probably just gonna gain more information based on the characters. But as far as like, you know, continuity and things like that, I doubt it. But then again, we don't know. And I guess the last thing to wrap up about the DLC, they're finally re-releasing Blood Dragon again. Ubisoft,
Thank you.
make another fucking Blood Dragon. That's all we've been asking for. Not re-releases,
So funny.
not cameos. Just make another Blood
I love
Dragon,
it.
man.
I love it.
It's so good. It's so fucking good. But oh well. Yeah, let's move on. We got way more to talk about. Well, this was not. Well, technically, this was announced before the direct, but this came out during Summer Game Fest. There's a sequel to Mario and Rabbids, and yeah, I haven't played the first game.
First, since Xbox came before.
Well, no,
that.
this was still technically Summer Game Fest. I'm still going by that,
Oh,
but
right.
yeah, I just want to get that out the way. Yeah, Mario and Rabbids is getting a sequel. It's I still can't get over the cursed fucking rabbit lumas. That shit
I
is
love it.
mad curse
I
shit
love
right
it.
there. But yeah, I thought that's interesting. You know, it's cool to see Mario packing heat again. So now we could like recreate the fucking Shadow the Hedgehog cover art.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess we could go ahead and get started with Microsoft. So yes, Microsoft. They're finally making do on that that exclusivity deal. Starfield is happening, and it is coming exclusively to Xbox and PC.
I
And
think
that's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I think with Microsoft's E3 presentations, I think it really just shows even more so the potential of Game Pass because now we're starting to see more games being released by the new ownership of all these other game companies because now Microsoft obviously owns a whole bunch of companies now that they bought a year or 2 years ago. So now we're going to see like this generation of consoles is going to be very interesting because it's going to be one of those moments where you're like, dang, now these exclusives are forced exclusives because before they used to be on PlayStation and on Nintendo, but now they're going to be only for PC and Xbox because Microsoft said so. And like I'm not mad at that. They pay a hefty amount of money to do so. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You get Game Pass and this E3 basically just said, "Hey, this is Game Pass and this is legit step 1. This is legit step 1 of Game Pass. New games are being released. Outer Worlds 2 was announced, which I love the original game. Starfield. You can also assume that the Elder Scrolls 6, because they did talk about Elder Scrolls 6, but they didn't show anything about it. It's in the works, but obviously it's going to become to Xbox and PC only.
Do you think that the new Elder Scrolls game is going to be like a game like with a B team, or is it going to be like, all right, we're going to work on Starfield. Starfield comes out, and then we're going to do Elder Scrolls 6?
I forgot how they mentioned it. Bethesda released something about that, and I can't remember what it was, but I think there is a team dedicated specifically to Elder Scrolls that's always worked with Elder Scrolls, but I do know that some of the team is working on Starfield. I don't know exactly how they quoted it. Maybe we can discuss this next episode, but I can't remember on top of my head.
Okay, I
They
just
did
wanted to
discuss
get
it.
that off my. I just thought about it because it's like, I see definitely more that they want to focus more on Starfield because it's like this new IP and blah blah blah
Right.
blah. But like, I was just wondering, like, oh yeah, they're still said they're making an Elder Scrolls game. Like, how's that gonna work
Right.
out?
So I think a lot of people are going to be, at least with this generation of consoles, they're going to be in a, it's different. It's going to be a different play ball because imagine everyone enjoyed Doom 1. I mean Doom 2016, and then they enjoyed Doom Eternal. Uh, you can bet there's going to be a third and final game for the trilogy, and maybe even more so. But people who got used to playing it on PlayStation, which that's basically me. I enjoyed it on PlayStation because I only played it on PlayStation. Now it's only going to be coming on PC and Xbox. So guess what? People who only have PlayStations and just recently bought a PlayStation 5 after spending hours and hours on end refreshing pages or listening to a YouTube channel or YouTube video that's basically live streaming and saying, hey, it's PS5s are available now. Now they're out of luck if they want to play the new Doom that comes out. Maybe it'll come out next year or in 2023. Who knows? But you won't be able to play that Doom game, and it's probably going to be a finale of the DLC from Doom Eternal. I'm not sure if you played it, but it was a phenomenal DLC for Doom Eternal. But people are going to be upset.
I know of it, but I haven't seen like the related like narrative behind it. But I know what you're talking
Yeah, but
about.
people
Yeah.
are upset. People are definitely upset because of this, and it's basically this E3 was all about, hey, we're going to do this and expect more.
Yeah.
It's basically an E3 dedicated just to Game Pass. I will say though, when I was watching the Microsoft E3, they announced that's when I found out that they announced Diablo 2 remastered or resurrected, and I got hyped. I really,
Well,
really got
Diablo
enjoyed that
2
game.
announced remaster was already a thing, but I guess they announced that it's coming to
I
Xbox
wasn't aware of it.
essentially.
That's why. Like I wasn't aware of it.
Oh, okay. Okay, okay.
That was the first I heard of it. I'm like, no way. And then I was watching with some friends because we were celebrating something that day, and then we were all just chilling at a house together, and then we put the live stream up, and then we saw Diablo 2, and we're like, yo, Diablo 2
Oh, okay.
resurrected? Yo, I didn't know. And it's just news to me. But honestly, I think Game Pass is going to just it, before just having all the Xbox exclusives on there, as well as other games that like The Witcher, a bunch of other games that you can get on other consoles, but it's already on Game Pass. If you buy the subscription for Game Pass, and you could just download it, then that's fine. But it's going to be a whole lot. It's going to be a different beast in the years to come. In 2 years from now, it's going to be way more competitive compared to PlayStation, whatever PlayStation now with their PlayStation Now, or even what Nintendo has. Nintendo doesn't have anything like that except the what do you call this?
Nintendo Switch, NES, and SNES
There you
games
go.
and things like.
Exactly. But I honestly, it's going to really force the hand on maybe Sony and Nintendo to really try to adopt a similar idea subscription based model for just to access media. I mean, you can look at Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu,
Disney
HBO,
Plus,
Disney
yeah.
Plus. It's subscription based, and they're
That you know
following the
what
same.
that's sort of like
Mhm.
that's sort of like this draconian nightmare that I keep hearing about. With Disney buying Fox now, which is pretty terrifying if you really think about it.
What do you mean?
Now that
What do you
Disney,
mean? Now I get to see Bobby Hill in Kingdom Hearts.
that's true. I guess you could look at it like that. But the thing is, though, is that Disney has said that they want to stop like production of deep Blu-rays and DVDs and things like that. And there's sort of that nightmare scenario where it's like, well, if it's on only streaming, because clearly, like Microsoft isn't going to do something that crazy. Be like, hey guys, no more physical games. We're just not going to do it. Because I think after the disaster that was the original Xbox One announcement,
Yup.
I don't think they're going to do something that crazy. But clearly, though, they're not like saying, hey guys, we're going to release, the new fucking Halo game on a box and things like that. They're gonna say like coming to Game Pass. Like that's like the term I keep hearing a lot. They just keep saying like Game Pass,
Yeah,
game
yeah.
and Game Pass. That's clearly what they want people to be focusing
They
on. They're not
repeated,
being like,
yeah,
oh boy, I
yeah.
can't wait to pre-order my copy and go to GameStop. They're like, okay, I can't wait to download this out my Game Pass through my Microsoft certified box. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and I think that's one thing. Obviously, they repeated after every showing of a game. Well, almost every showing of the game, they say, "Hey, available." They say console exclusive, and then at the end of the trailer, before the trailer began, and then the trailer played out, and then at the end of the trailer, available day one on Game Pass, and I think this E3 was really focusing on Game Pass and what their goals are, their
I
plans
think it's going to
are.
be the future for everything from
Right.
now on. It's going to be everything. It's sort of like when Nintendo says now coming to Nintendo Switch. Like, well, no fucking shit. Like that's
Right.
what they're saying. But now it's like really specific. Like, hey, you don't even have to buy this thing. It's already going to be included.
I think one thing I did enjoy about the Xbox on the Microsoft E3 is Halo. How Halo Infinite is gonna have free to play multiplayer.
Let's talk about that.
That's quite interesting. We talked about this before recording about Modern Warfare allowed you to obviously own the base game in order to play your multiplayer campaign,
Your
Spec Ops.
your multiplayer,
Right.
And then there was a Spec Ops that was exclusive to PlayStation for a
Well,
bit.
yeah, survival mode, which was
Survival mode,
right,
there you go.
and then it's now available for everyone. But like everyone had their classic Spec Ops, which is what Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 had, and then their new addition to Spec Ops, which continued the story of Modern Warfare. But Warzone was completely free. The problem was that even though it is a battle royale, you have to grind in a specific game mode in order to level up your weapons, because like how we discussed earlier in the episode, you had to, like, the meta changes with certain weapons updates and certain new additions to the game. So because they added new guns, they added new this and that, so the meta changes, so you needed to buy the base game in order to comfortably level up your weapons in order to stay within the meta. Although it wasn't until Black Ops came through that the meta was really broken. But
Yeah, I think it was the worst at that point.
actual worst. So I think
Was it? Wait, hold up. Couldn't you use? I remembered trying this out, but apparently you couldn't use Black Ops weapons on the Modern Warfare multiplayer if you didn't have Black Ops installed.
no, there is no Black Ops weapons in Modern Warfare. They're only in Warzone.
Oh, only for Warzone.
Right.
Gotcha. Because that's like the main thing. Okay.
Obviously, there's weapons that they'll
So you
share.
couldn't even. So it's not even like you could unlock the weapon in Warzone and then you could just hop on the multiplayer to grind out the
Well,
levels. You have.
here's a good example. So, Modern Warfare has the MP5, and so does Black Ops. But in Warzone, they'll have, here's the MP5 for Modern Warfare, and there's a little tag that says Modern Warfare, or MW, and then here's the Cold War one, and it says Cold War, and it's red and blue. So you know that, hey, the MP5, the AK-47, the weapon, the AUG, the weapons that they share is different. They are different. They have different stats. Although they're very similar, they're different stats, different weapons, so you have to level up differently. If you're max leveled already, if you're already not max level, I'm saying if you're at level 55, which you unlock all things, you will already have all the perks unlocked. Well, only the Modern Warfare perks unlocked, but you'll also unlock all the Cold War weapons. So if you want to level up your Cold War weapons, you can. You have to just play Warzone if you only own Warzone as a game. But if you don't own Black Ops, you can still access these weapons. These weapons. So
Okay.
but
Right.
the free multiplayer for Halo is quite interesting. Obviously, it's going to be a different experience compared to Modern Warfare, because obviously the multiplayer for Halo has always been its own thing, and it's always been disconnected from everything else. So I want to know how they're going to implement this free to play. Obviously, it's going to be a PC, Xbox thing only, but I'm really like wondering how they're going to implement or not implement, but trying to like buy your way or convince you to buy the main game in order for you to have.
I guess because they don't really have to do that because, like you said, like it's coming to Game Pass, so it's kind of like we could try to convince these people to buy the campaign, but most likely our target audience already has Game Pass,
Right.
so it's not going to be that difficult. I can't think of. That's a good point though. Like, what other game can you think of where the multiplayer is free on a competitive, like on a shooter game for that matter? Like, let's be completely honest. So, like, when you buy Call of Duty, you buy Call of Duty for the multiplayer. The campaign and Spec Ops there is
Extra,
an extra, But let's be completely honest. That's why I never been into that camp of people says like no campaign, no buy. Like, I never been those people because I think you're fooling yourself at that point.
I think
like,
it honestly
you're gonna play
depends on the game as well, because I thoroughly enjoyed World at War, Black Ops 1, and Black Ops 2's campaign. it was phenomenal. Campaign from Black Ops, from World War to Black Ops 1. Black Ops 2 was all right. It was all right. Black Ops 3 really like losing the ball when it comes to campaigning. It was like really, really subpar. It made me more
And 4 didn't even
no,
try.
not at all. But it makes me more connected to the game itself because I quite enjoyed playing campaigns. I love playing them. I love completing them, getting 100% on everything because the campaign is interesting to me. And Modern Warfare, obviously, though it got incorrect historical events, and it kind of sort of they were sort of mocked by it. But that's neither here or there. The Halo campaign, though, that's different. Halo is necessary when it comes to campaign. You want to play a
It
Sheev.
is part of the experience.
It is, exactly. It's part of the experience. It's part of everything. And you just not having Halo not having a Halo game with campaign is just, it's crazy. Sure, you can get away with
Actually,
COD,
wait.
but it's just
Let me ask you this, Marcos, because you and Kenny are people who grew up with Halo more. As you can tell, I am completely alienated from this experience. So when you guys like get a new Halo game, is the first thing you guys do is do the campaign?
Always.
Okay, because whenever like a Call of Duty game comes out, I don't know if people still do this, but back then people were racing to get prestige. Like that was like a thing that people do. They would
for
get
Halo
the game,
2.
install it. Huh?
They do it in Halo too. They in Halo as well. They try to get the higher levels to get the.
But like the expected play is supposed to be like you get home, you get the Halo 3 with the fucking little tiny Master Chief helmet that you thought was going to be full size, but it's not, and then you just pop your fucking Mountain Dew in, and then you play the game. Most people start with the campaign, right?
I don't think most people, but I definitely did because I wasn't really in a rush.
But a good chunk of it, you could definitely say that it's no. You could say a good chunk of it,
especially Halo 1, 2, and 3. Those games were honestly just game changing. It was done beautifully. The music, the scores were amazing. Just the narrative was great. How they implemented everything, it was phenomenal. Difficulty, how you could increase difficulty with skulls, it was phenomenal. So
okay, so clearly the campaign was a focus for people. They're like, I can't wait to play the campaign. Okay.
Not only that,
well, the
but
reason
even,
why
even certain game modes, like when they introduced Firefight, which is basically it's a survival. You played in campaign maps, in campaign locations. So I think Halo is a little bit different. It's a very it's an exception when it comes to campaign because since it's inception all the way to even now, like the people really view the campaign when it comes to reviewing the game itself. Because it's just part of the series. It's unlike Call of Duty where Call of Duty's like, yeah, sure, cool campaign, and people enjoy the original Modern Warfare campaign and the original Black Ops campaign. But honestly, it's like at this point, people just play it once and they just get over with. But the amount of challenges you can do in Halo when it comes to Legendary, All Skulls On, playing it with co-op, it's a different experience. It's honestly great. It's awesome. And honestly, you can replay the Halo campaigns offline in co-op, split screen co-op. But the campaign in Black Ops and Modern Warfare and all these other games, it's just legit just a single player thing. It's not it's not a multiplayer thing, a co-op thing. So I'm really looking forward for Halo Infinite, especially the multiplayer. They're bringing a new spin onto it. They're making the game a lot more faster, a lot more fluid like, and I really am wondering how the people are going to take it, because before people didn't like the sprint option in Halo Reach because it changed the game mode, but now it seems like we're going to be stuck on this whole, like, the newer games are going to be more
faster
pace, and now since you have a grapple hook, it's going to really change how multiplayer is going to be affected. It's going to be one of those things where like skill really comes into how good you are in the game, instead of just like, I just got a lucky shot, or I just picked up the shotgun where it one shot to if you're close enough. So it's going to be really skill based compared to all the other Halo games. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just being optimistic, but when it comes to anything else that the Microsoft E3 announced,
there's the best the best thing they announced, the Xbox Series X mini fridge.
Oh, right.
They did it. They did it.
I don't know the dimensions of that, how close it's going to be to the actual Xbox Series X, but I've always wanted to get a mini fridge just to have it, just my drinks next to me.
I have a mini fridge right here next to me.
I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's definitely the gamer's mini fridge, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel it. But when it
So
comes
yeah,
to
I guess
I'm sorry, but when it comes to the Microsoft, what do you call it? The Microsoft, like,
presentation.
yeah, games I'm looking forward to, Forza. I'm really, really excited and like that they're really, really using the Xbox Series, hardware to really push that game. Flight Simulator as well. I know a lot of people who play that game, and it looked phenomenal when it comes to just their presentation. On for the Xbox Series S and X, it looks great. I liked both of them. Obviously, Scorn. Scorn's gonna be one of those games where because I like the aesthetics that Scorn's going for. I'm looking forward to it, but that's just me. What was it? Psychonauts. Psychonauts. I'm really considering getting day one.
Have you played the original? Because I
Uh,
haven't touched the
just a
original
bit, and
yet.
I enjoyed it. Also, 100%, I'm gonna get Stalker 2. 100%.
Okay.
I love the original Stalker, which is why Stalker is the reason why I like stealth games, which is why I liked Metro, which is why I liked a bunch of these stealth like games, because Stalker did it so darn well, and I can only be optimistic on them doing it even better than the original game. What I forgot this other game, this Russian game where there's anomalies and all that stuff. I'm having a brain fart. You know what I'm talking about, right? There's this Russian-based game where there's anomalies and radiation involved. It's not Metro. It's
Uh,
Dang it.
I'm drawing a blank.
Uh,
Oh, Escape from Tarkov.
no, not Escape from Tarkov. I'll come back to that. But anyways, it's
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it, and also, because I've always been interested in playing the series Yakuza. All the Yakuza games except I think Judgment. I can't remember. They're all on Game
Well,
Pass.
it's not really a Yakuza game, but yeah, that's it's also a PlayStation game, so that's another
Right.
thing you gotta consider.
Right, so all the Yakuza games are going to be on Game Pass, so I might as well start playing Yakuza games because they look really, really interesting. Obviously, they're hilarious, and the amount of memes that people, make of it, it's fun, but it's something to look forward to. Obviously, Game Pass is what they were pushing, and I'm looking forward to what Game Pass has to offer. But obviously, we could talk about Nintendo, which came out today at 12 Eastern Standard Time.
Well, wait, actually,
Uh-huh.
well, there's still a couple things. Now, I know that on my segment on the whole Microsoft presentations, I kind of glanced over a lot of the games. Yeah, because a lot of the games that they showed off just weren't like really clicking with me. They weren't anything that get me excited. They weren't bad or anything. All I could safely say is like Xbox announced games. They're coming to Game Pass, so I don't have to buy them.
Mhm.
They're going to be available for my PC, so I don't gotta like really put any thought into like, oh, should I buy the game? Yeah, should you buy the game that you already could play already with your Game Pass subscription?
Mhm.
So it's there, exists. I'll take a look at it. The only other really thing I wrote down, but I forgot, I glanced this over, is that Jack Sparrow's in Sea of Thieves.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
didn't care about that.
yeah, I mean, I've still haven't played Sea of Thieves. I know it got kind of like popular again for a brief moment on Twitch. I don't know if it's still good now, but I just thought that was kind of neat.
Mhm.
But before we get to that, because there's still one more presentation. Don't worry, this will be very short. Because honestly, though, I don't even think they wanted it to be that long. Square Enix had their little presentation, and yeah, they really flex on that fucking Marvel license. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, they were really proud of that goddamn Guardians of the Galaxy thing. Hey, man, look. I'd be all over it if these guys didn't really screw up with Avengers already, so I'm not really that convinced that, Eidos or whoever is working on this one is going to do it. I don't know. It was just so jarring that they put so much effort and attention into this one part of the presentation where it was just like, man, you guys are really banking on this Guardians thing, Like, Avengers flopped when, like, the MCU at its peak, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could get it. Like, I could see why people were really excited about the Avengers game because, this was after
Yeah.
the movies were coming out,
But
and
it
everyone was
just
really, really in.
the delivery.
It was in the public conscience, but then the game came out and
The
it was sort of like
delivery
forgettable.
was
and
horrible. It was bad. It was bad. The campaign
I
was
just
fun.
wasn't interested.
The campaign was fun, but the multiplayer.
I don't know look, man, the only thing when I tell people is that, like, when I started losing interest in the game was like when they started trying to explaining like gear systems and cosmetics. I'm like, this shouldn't be this fucking complicated. It's a fucking co-op beat 'em up game at the end of the day. Like, this shouldn't be this complicated, guys.
Right.
Like, why do we need to talk about premium currencies in a game like this? Is when you start losing me.
I don't know.
But yeah, like that Guardians of a Galaxy demo, it didn't look bad. Like, it wasn't like awful, but aside from the characters wouldn't shut the fuck up, I guess they're really banking on that like Final Fantasy 15 experience. Like, hey, everybody talks like they're people, but it's like
I'm
sometimes you just get in a talk. You don't have to talk every minute. But
I'm
yeah,
just concerned how that Guardians of the Galaxy game is going to run on the Switch.
Not good. That's pretty much it. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's pretty much the summarization. It's just gonna run it on Switch. So yeah, I thought that was just really excessive. Like, like I tweeted this out on my twitter.com where I tweeted out this, like, when your presentation's bad, when I remembered it too. I was eating lunch. I pull up my phone, and I don't, like, I tell people that, like, I don't usually watch E3. I just wait for the articles to come out. But when your presentation was bad was when I got home and I'm eating my lunch and I pull out my phone and I put the Square Enix E3 presentation, press here. I'm like, okay, cool.
Okay.
I press it and it's still going on and on and on about that fucking, like, Guardians demo. And I was just
really
like, God, like, really, can we, like, move on? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it doesn't look like they really had much else to show off.
Just
I don't
that in
know.
the Final Fantasy game.
Well, yeah, I guess we could move on there. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the Guardians.
Right. So,
demo.
I'm pretty sure you and I agree both on the spamming of the
Oh yeah,
word
and also
chaos.
there was also Adventures.
There's
There's also Adventures content added.
Oh,
I forgot to add.
yeah.
I forgot to briefly mention that. Yeah, it looks like that they're gonna try to, like, sway people back into the game by, like, saying that, hey, remember, we still have this content roadmap going on, and also we're doing this Wakanda expansion, and it's not gonna be any cost to you guys. It's just gonna be included. So clearly they're trying to, like, incentivize people to pick up the game again and just be like, hey, you should play it more because we're practicing more content.
The player count is.
But before we get to that,
low, though, so I doubt it. I thought it's gonna happen.
yeah. Before we get into that origin story, let's get this quickly out of the way, because don't worry, we're gonna treat it as short as possible, because it was a blink it and you miss it moment. The Final Fantasy 1 through 6 pixel remasters. I don't blame you if you forgot this was even a thing, because it happened in less than a second. But apparently they're going to be doing, like, remasters, but also be faithful to the original sprite art of the original first 6 Final Fantasy games, which I'm all for, because, if you go on Steam right now and you type in Final Fantasy 4, you're going to get the mobile versions, which originally was on the DS, and then later ported to mobile and then ported to Steam. Because unfortunately, Square Enix has this really bad habit of, whenever they want to re-release their older material, like through, like, RPGs and stuff like that, they use the mobile ports as reference material. I get why, but most people would agree, like, hey, would you rather choose, like, 3D poly models or HD 2D sprites? Most people like me would prefer HD 2D sprites. Now, they haven't, like, showed us any comparison footage or anything for that matter. All they said is Final Fantasy 1 through 6 is getting re-released on mobile platforms, on and Steam, and PC. And it's going to be pixel remasters, which is sort of interesting. I doubt they're going to do this. I wish they would do this, where they would do what Sega did when Sonic 2 was re-released again on mobile with the retro engine, with Taxman's engine and things like that. If you bought, like, the older mobile port of the game, you would just get the new port as a free update. But I doubt they're going to do that, because they released Final Fantasy 8 on PC twice, with the remaster pretty much being a necessity. So I thought that was kind of lame.
I will say, though.
Yeah,
I will say, though, a lot of people are more upset that it's not going to be a console thing. It's only going to be a PC and mobile game. But I will say, though, one thing I do enjoy is that, hey, I get to play a remastered game that a lot of people enjoyed, because they had interesting gameplay, story, turn-based combat as well, on your phone. And honestly, that doesn't seem like a bad idea unless they do gacha mechanics on mobile, because, well, mobile games, right?
No.
So, but other than that, like, I get why people are upset for remastering the game by giving them HD pixels and better sprites, but they make it a mobile and PC thing only, which, honestly, much like with any other game in this E3 announcements, I'm optimistic. I might pick it up on what do you call it?
I just looked up the Final Fantasy 6, like, Steam page right now, and like, here's the thing about these sprites. Like, the enemy sprites are just cleaner and they're nicer and they're upscaled. They look great, but it's the character sprites that they did that look really weird. Like, they're all, like, stood up, like, with a stick up their ass and shit like that. And clearly, like, that's what people are annoyed about. And what annoys me the most about this whole thing is that the game, at least this version of the game, was clearly designed with a touchscreen in mind. So you see, like, the UI just completely block up the screen. It's like, you guys couldn't put the effort of like putting like controller inputs and shit like that and not make the UI like this gigantic like eyesore, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's where my problem is that like look, do the pixel remasters to, you know, respect the original sprite artwork, but for the love of God, make the UI actually good, you know what I'm saying? Not made it for mobile versions. Like for mobile, yeah, they're fine, but for playing it on a monitor, you're just like, yeah, I don't need my entire UI HUD just completely blocking up the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's fine. I haven't pulled the trigger. So at least, you know, if Final Fantasy VI comes out with the sprite remaster, looks pretty good, I'll buy it on mobile because I think it looks pretty good. Also, if we are releasing Final Fantasy VI, please include the GBA content. I am so tired of these companies like re-releasing a game and then they incentivize it by adding more content. But then when it gets re-released again, they don't add that content back in. And it's like, you already put the effort of making it for the original port. Why not just do it again?
Mm-hmm. I think it's just a fiscal thing, honestly, where it's just like it's not gonna make us money.
I guess I don't know, but yeah, that was that. But yes, now we could talk about Chaos.
Oh yeah,
and he's an asshole.
Yeah, there's not much for me to say, honestly. It's going to be it's going to be just an origin story of Final Fantasy, which is nice. I don't mind that, but just.
Yeah,
I have a problem with the whole chaos spamming. Some people have complaints about how a lot of the characters look generic, like really, really generic. They don't really stand out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing though about like chaos in general. Here's the thing, this is the prequel to Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 1 doesn't have much of a story in the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, there's the bad guy, and then you beat him, and then he turns into a super bad guy in the past, so you have to go into the future, and blah, 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 and, you know, like, there's not much of a story to go through. You're not really gonna, you know Fighter A to Thief B to White Mage C to Black Mage D,
right.
Like, it's not much of a story, you know, and also got to keep reminding myself that this is a spin-off. Like, it's not, as far as I'm aware of, it's not canon. It's not going to be like, this is like the original, original prequel story to Final Fantasy 1. It's clearly meant to be its own thing, and people bring up the fact like, oh, did Nomura design it and blah, 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 blah. I just think that what kind of surprises me is just that the three main characters just look really out of place, Like, I brought this up with a friend of mine on Discord where we talk about, like, Final Fantasy and RPG games in general have, like, this gimmick where it's just like, oh, we found out that this ancient civilization is actually much more technologically advanced than those who live in, in the modern age where it's like, they got castles and stones and sticks and shit like that. Meanwhile, on the fucking moon, we got, like, spaceships and fucking computers and things. Like, it's a bit jarring, but, it's technology, not clothing, not fashion sense, like, fucking Final Fantasy 15 like embraced the more modern-esque design by having a fucking car, by giving everyone fucking, regular clothes, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I guess it just looks so jarring when the main character just looks like fucking Kyle from 7-Eleven, you know what I'm saying? I think it's sort of funny. I like to just run this idea in my mind where like Kyle quits his job at 7-Eleven because he's so angry at the world that he wants to defeat the chaos, literally.
I think I don't know. I think they're just experimenting something new. Hopefully it can
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take it in stride. It looks stupid. I think they know it looks stupid, but god damn it, that chaos spamming was like, holy shit, that was getting
the last thing I want to say about the whole Final Fantasy thing and this origin story as well as the Ubisoft E3 in general is that the Square Enix released a what do you call it, a demo for Final Fantasy Origins. Well, turns out the file that they uploaded for people to download and play the demo was corrupted. So this didn't happen to a handful of people or 10% of the people or half the people. It happened to everyone. It seems like the file that they uploaded for you to play the demo was corrupted. So it was wrong with the file that they completely screwed the pooch. So no one is playing the demo because of that reason. So I think that's just like a...
Well, they fixed it.
Yeah, I'm saying
they
that's
fixed it.
at the beginning. That's what happened. And that was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
But...
That's pretty funny, yeah. Like, oh, this game is a creature of chaos. It can't even be played.
Exactly.
This is we need to physically beat the PlayStation 5 to destroy chaos.
So.
It's all meta, guys.
So that's why I'm like, it started off bad. Like the first step, it started off bad,
Yeah, you really shouldn't put all your eggs in that fucking basket about that Guardians thing. Like, hey man, we're not taking your stride on that fucking Marvel license because, hey man, You already fucked up with Avengers, you
Much like how
know.
what EA did with Star Wars, it was just.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But hey, the EA contract's expiring. I think either this year or next year. So different companies are gonna do Star Wars games now, not just EA. So yay!
Assuming we'll have to wait and see how long, how much it'll cost for them to, pay for that license.
No, no,
'Cause,
no. They
pay-
some games are already developing. Some gaming developers are already developing Star Wars games to be released.
Oh, okay.
Already. Like it's going to be a you talk to Star Wars. Star Wars will be like, yeah, cool, sure. Pitch us an idea, and then here you go. You pay for the rights, and then they'll do a contract. But yeah, I think there's two games that were announced. I think earlier this year about that. Not two gaming developers that announced that hey, this is what's going to happen. The games are going to come out around 2023, 2024, somewhere there. So yeah, it's something to look forward to. So not just EA won't be the only one working on games.
Okay.
And
that's
they'll
kinda,
be canon.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess we could go ahead and wrap it up with the final presentation today. And in my honest opinion, based on the presentation and what they've announced and things like that, and it wasn't a fucking Snorefest, I think Nintendo, quote unquote, won this year's E3. But to be completely honest, though, it wasn't much of a competition. So let's get started. My boy Kazuya from Tekken. I don't know why I was confusing him with the fucking anime character, the Isekai character. But yes, Kazuya is coming to Smash Brothers. Only, you know what? It makes sense. You already put Street Fighter. You already put King of Fighters. Fuck it. Put
Yes,
Tekken.
in Smash
That's
4,
like
people were wondering when they're going to put a Tekken character because obviously.
I mean, there was like Heihachi skins and shit for me
exactly.
characters.
So the people were wondering like when is it actually going to happen, and especially after Terry came out. After Ken, then Terry. I was like, all right, then where the heck is Tekken? Are they gonna do Blaze Blue first or Blast Blue first before they do Tekken? Come on. So that was the joke.
No, they have to do Tekken. Like Tekken's been forever. So like, yeah, I figured that, you know what? It's not someone I would pick. Not saying I'm mad at the choice, but it makes sense. Like, you know what? If you're already gonna put fucking KOF and Street Fighter, do Tekken.
Yeah. Even though I might not pick him up on Smash, it's quite nice that they're putting all these.
I need to pick up Smash Brothers in the first place. I have not touched that game in forever.
Scrub.
That thing's bad. I just haven't played
One
it.
thing I will say is that like it's that Kazuya wasn't as impactful as DLC character like compared to Sephiroth, because that really when Sephiroth was announced, everyone was going nuts, crazy. So this new DLC, I'm glad finally we get a Tekken representation, but it's not like wow, at least to me. But yeah.
I guess we could talk about, this is my list. Obviously, there's a lot more games that they announced, but I just wrote down the list of games that really caught my eye. Metroid Dread. Holy shit. I was completely blindsided by that. I don't think anybody was expecting them to say, hey, we all know that Prime 4 is probably not going to come out. I'm willing to bet worst case scenario, it's going to be the Switch's swan song. It is going to be the Wii U with Breath of the Wild. It's going to be a game that's going to be in development forever and ever and ever, and it's going to finally come out because they promised it was going to come out on a specific system. It's going to come out, but by the time that it comes out, the next system is already coming out. They said, hey, look, we're being upfront with it. The game is going through a little bit of development right now. We recently had to change plans because we weren't happy with the standards of it, which I'm okay with. I thought like, okay, how are they going to like please Metroid fans over? And then all of a sudden we're making a 2.5D game. And you know what? It makes fucking sense. Because at first I was thinking like, okay, what can they do to hold over Prime fans? They could either A, re-release the Prime trilogy again and just be like, hey, just play this until, until Prime 4 comes out, or B, they could do a separate game altogether and then just make that as like something to hold them over. And I just love the name. I don't know if you know the story behind the term Metroid Dread, but that was like a reference and an Easter egg since like Metroid Prime 1 on the GameCube. There was this one data log that you could read where they say Project Dread is in development. That's all it was. And Did You Know Gaming and all these news outlets were talking about like what it really was. And I think they asked like one of the producers like, hey, what is this Project Dread that we keep hearing about? And he says, we can't confirm that it was a project, but it is no longer in development. So the name existed. It clearly was a thing. So I think what happened was that Dread was a game developed around that time. They shelved it. And then later when they're like, okay, Prime 4 is in development stress right now, let's off shelf that project name again and build off of
Yeah.
it. And it's so crazy because it's like, man, when was the last time we had a 2D Metroid game? I keep hearing that people saying that it's 25 years, but I think they're not counting the
I
3DS game.
think they're
Is
the
that what
remake
they're?
of Metroid 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, are they not counting that, or is it when they say like original? I
I
guess
think
that's what
yeah.
they
So
mean, right?
in the trailer and when they announced it, this is hey, this is like it's our first new Samus Metroid game for 19 years because everything else has always been a sequel. Because of Metroid
Hmm.
Prime and whatnot. The last one was I think Metroid Fusion because there was a Metroid 1, 2, Prime, and then Fusion, right? Right. And then everything
Well, there's
and then everything else was just
what are we
remakes,
just?
right? Like they remastered
Oh, okay.
Metroid Zero Mission. They remade obviously they're remaking the Metroid 2, Samus Venture I think it was called.
Well, Samus
Samus
Returns.
Returns, right? And then Metroid Prime. I don't think they have touched it again, but
There was other M,
other
which we
M,
don't like to talk
right?
about. I think.
But other than that, it's Metroid Prime has always been like it was released on the GameCube, and then they just kept adding games onto it. So it is a new addition because it's not a continuation. It's not a continuation of the story. It's not a remaster. It's a new 2D type of game that obviously it's like the original where there's a lot of platforming, 2D platforming. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I really do like Samus's suit. It looks very, very clean. It's very nice. I only wish the best for it. Obviously, we didn't see too much of it. All we know is that there's going to be new mechanics. There's going to be new enemies that you can't beat outright. Much like how with the Metroids, you couldn't really touch Metroids until you got the freeze ray, which you allowed it to freeze them in place, and then you can do multiple mass amount of damage with whatever arsenals you got at the time. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be like fighting Metroids again, but not really. So I'm really really looking forward to it. And now that that this area was used to be owned by the Galactic Federation, why Samus is in there we don't know yet. The enemies are very, very interesting and very very spooky, more horror based because they're just robots. And
I always wanted a continuation to the SAX. I think that idea was so cool that they should have like built on top of it. You play Metroid Fusion,
not
right?
much, but yeah, I know about it.
All right, so basically that idea of like that impending, like super gigantic, scary ass enemy that could potentially one shot you. I like that idea of Fusion so much. It's like, man, Metroid is all about like being the sole like bounty hunter in space, and you're like in
A
this
badass. Yeah.
uncharted planet, and then now you have that extra element like, dude, there's a dude who's like actively hunting you down. That shit is
Hmm.
fucking spooky,
Hmm.
man. I love games that do that.
But I quite enjoyed it. One thing I did quite enjoy of this Nintendo Direct is the nostalgia. When it comes to like, hey, we're gonna bring back games or we're gonna remaster games because of nostalgia. Obviously, Super Monkey Ball was one of them. Another one was the Mario Party All Stars, which basically is a collection of basically. I would say a collection of all the Nintendo 64 Mario Party games, which honestly were one of the best. Mario Party 2 and 3 are one of the most top tier Mario Party games, alongside with 4. And yeah, don't at me at that because honestly, those 3 games in general just really, really redefined Mario Party. As well as
Mhm.
WarioWare, obviously bringing that back, even though it's no new games have been coming out. Um, a l-
Was the WarioWare game on Wii U really that bad? Because
I
that's
liked
what
it.
I always
I
hear
liked
when
it, but
you
but
like.
it was I think it was
Okay.
more of an issue, much like how you brought it up at the beginning of this episode about this whole presentation with
Fatigue.
the Wii remotes when what was it? Miyamoto was using was it Miyamoto? Is that his name?
Yeah, Miyamoto. Yeah,
When he
yeah.
was playing Skyward Sword, he was having issues with it. I think that was one of the main issues when the game first came out, was just playing these very very meticulous games that were at some points where the game gets too fast, and you have to be super super accurate, and the motion controls are only so accurate. So uh,
I never played Game and Wario, but
it
like
was
that's
very
what I always
interesting.
I like.
The
It was
the
like,
micro games were hilarious, and I love them. But obviously, it's WarioWare. You only it's super fun when you're playing with friends. Like really really fun with friends.
yeah, like I said, like I'll wait for Marcos or his brother to get the games, and I'll just hang out with them and then play. Because I like Mario Party games. Like, oh, that looks cool. I'm gonna wait for my friends to get it because I'm not gonna
I
buy
will
it.
say though one thing about this about Nintendo's Direct, a lot of the games are coming out this year. Virtually all the games that were announced are going to come out this year, either in a couple months from now, in the fall, or holiday. Some games like they all like I think they have like a handful of games that said 2022. like with
Well, we do know that one of the bigger games announced. Yes, it is shooting
yeah,
for a
well, the
twenty-twenty-two
Mario and Rabbids
release
is
date.
2022. I think obviously the bigger game was announced as well, but I think Two Point Campus as well that they announced. But most of these games are coming out this year, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
the DLC, whether it be Life is Strange remastered collection with the Life is Strange True Colors is coming out this year, September. The Marvel's Guardians coming in October. A lot of these games are coming out this year, so it basically made this year. This direct was really focusing on this year, and then the games are coming out next year, which I think was only 3 games in particular. But I quite enjoy the whole hey here's your nostalgia stuff like Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which is honestly I like that name Reboot Camp. Amazing,
I like it.
amazing title. Whoever developed that needs a pat on the head because that was an amazing title. Reboot Camp. I loved it. I think didn't they also what was his metal it's skipping my mind.
Oh,
Metal
Metal Slug.
Slug.
Yeah, Metal.
Metal Slug.
But it's rebooted as more of like a tactical shooter, and everyone's like simping the fuck out over Fio because now it's confirmed that she has abs.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, but I'm really excited that they're really giving the whole hey, they're actually recognizing the N64 as well with Super Mario, with Mario Party Superstars, and I'm quite enjoyed it. Obviously, they announced the Shin Megami Tensei 5, which looks quite interesting. Their whole new change up on the fifth game. The I can never say this right the first time. Danganronpa is it? Yeah,
Danganronpa.
Danganronpa. Coming to the Switch. The two forms, the Ultimate Summer Camp, which is like a Mario Party esque type of game, and then the just a game coming out. It's coming out this year, and Fatal Frame as well, which is Nintendo's horror game.
Listen, let me get this out of the way right now. Either they put the Samus outfit in there, or I'm not buying the game. That's all I have to say. They got
for
put
Fatal
my
Frame.
Yes,
I don't understand that reference.
the Wii U the Wii U version of the game in Japan had all these extra costumes and stuff, including the Samus skin.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, it was. I remember it was a bit of controversy back then because they didn't want to put it in the American version. At least that's one by memory. Let me double check that. But yeah, they got to put that skin in, or I'm not buying the game.
Okay. And then obviously the game that everyone's been looking forward to. People were hoping Metroid Prime 4 was announced, but obviously Metroid Dread is it's all right. Like
Is it definitely a great way to hold people over? Like I'm excited. I'm legitimately.
and then there's the one that everyone knew that was going to be announced, like a trailer or something that they were going to talk about. Obviously, the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yep. And yeah, that footage looks fucking dope. It looks really, really good, and I am really excited.
So I'm glad that it's going to be the same map, but with additions to it. They're adding layers to it. I mean, like not,
Flying castles and shit.
basically, right? What's next? The third and final game of the trilogy. They're going to make a trilogy thing that's going to be underground, because like why not, right?
Ooh.
So. But I like the idea.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, in the beginning of the trailer, it does show Link, being underground. So it could be
That's
could
true.
just be the introduction.
Well, then again, like in the original Breath of the Wild,
We have to go to the ocean.
in the original Breath of the Wild game, there were points where you did go underground. So, but all I'm saying is giving it the Skyward Sword treatment, where there's a sky level, and hopefully you can imagine accessing the base map from Breath of the Wild, but now there's a sky world as well. That'd be very interesting if they did implement a game that large. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I was hoping, to tell you the truth, maybe a little bit more Pokemon news. I know they have their own Pokemon thing. When they last announced it, when we talked about it in our Pokemon episode, where they did it was basically a Pokemon Direct. But maybe just little things like, hey, Pokemon this and that. Just a little announcement about Pokemon, about new news coming out. But they didn't.
I mean, like the Gen 4 remake is coming out pretty
Obviously.
soon. So I mean, like that's like the only recent news I could think of they actually talked about was like, hey, we got a release date for Gen 4. Here's the box art. It's on Twitter. You already probably know this by the time you get into it. I mean, I guess what they'll probably will do is maybe they'll do like a game or like a presentation for like Legends where it's like, hey, in the Pokemon Direct, we're gonna focus more on the gameplay of Arceus, and then we could we could talk more about it. But I don't know. I feel like that with this presentation, like, hey, this is the game, this is the release date. Let's look forward to go on from there.
Right.
You know.
I think people were expecting certain things. Obviously, a lot of people were expecting, obviously, like I said before, the Metro Prime 4. They were already expecting some sort of sequel announcement or something about Breath of the Wild, because we don't know the actual title yet. It's probably going to be called Breath of the Wild 2, since Nintendo doesn't really do that with Legend of Zelda all too much, but it has happened before. But
What, the first sequel to the first Zelda game?
right. So all I'm saying is that I wonder what it's going to be called. Obviously, Breath of the Wild is a very very interesting title. Obviously, people already know you say Breath of the Wild. You can't confuse it with anything else. So I wonder what they're gonna do with this title. If they call it Breath of the Wild 2, honestly, I wouldn't care. But if they make their own like little spin, like obviously like, hey, Ocarina of Time, you're using the Ocarina of Time. The Wind Waker, you're using the Wind Waker to complete your mission. Twilight Princess, so on and so forth. Skyward Sword,
Skyward Sword.
So I wonder what this title is going to be called, and I hope it's going to be something like very, very interesting. Because Breath of the Wild really is like not one of those things that you're like, you have to use the Breath of the Wild in order to be the game. No, it's not that. It basically really, really describes the game in a simple way, but it does it well, and I like the title. So I wonder how it's going to be with this new title, but I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's going to be an amazing game. I can only wish that they. I was hoping that they were going to announce or tease a Nintendo Switch Plus, Pro, whatever, because obviously Breath of the Wild is a big game. The Legend Arceus games coming out for Pokemon, it's going to be a big game. It's only a matter of time where Nintendo really needs to release a game with a console with more hardware. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch is only 5 years old, so I wonder how they're going to do with that, because usually consoles last a little bit more longer before they release a new console. You know what I mean?
I get where you're coming from, but as I mentioned, I told you this before, like the show and stuff. I don't believe that Nintendo's ever going to be, forced their hand into like, we have to do it. And at less and low, they're not going to be like, hey, we're going to announce the new Switch, because then that's bad marketing, because now people are potentially not going to buy the Switch, and they're going to have to wait to buy the Switch Pro, essentially. And that's why, like, whenever these people on Twitter, like, says like, oh, guys, I know it, they're gonna announce the new Switch, Switch, and I'm like, you're not gonna know that. And even if they were, like, no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna buy the new Switch, I'm not gonna buy a Switch now, because I'm gonna wait until the Switch Pro comes out. Like, look at the Wii. The Wii sold phenomenally well. Did the Wii get redesigned because it needed better hardware? Fuck no. It was the Wii. Everybody had a fucking Wii. You probably have a Wii right now in your fucking entertainment station. You don't remember when you fucking bought it. You bought it because you thought Wii Sports was cool, and you still bought it. But games are still coming out for that thing, even though it wasn't even an HD system.
Wii Sports was a legendary, phenomenal game, and it's still good to this game, and I love it.
I agree, but my point is, though, is that I will always defend the camp, and I take this from Scott DeWaz, where he says, like, look, if the game is going to come out on Switch, and if it's possible and financially viable, they're going to do it. It's some way, shape, or form, they're going to do it. Either they're going to crap the frame rate, the resolution, the graphics, whatever they're going to do, they're going to get it, because that is a market that people want to buy. People are...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I really have to say about it. Like, I don't think Nintendo needs to, like, confirm it. They don't need to, like, say it. I think it's just people are like, come on, guys. You want one. You want to.
Okay, so hear me out. So how long has the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One has been out before they announced, or to the public, there's going to be new consoles coming out, and they teased it. Like, officially, they said new consoles are going to come out, but they didn't give a release date. They didn't give a name to the console itself. Obviously, we already know the PlayStation 5 was going to call the PlayStation 5, because obviously they do a numerical thing. But the Xbox, no one knew the name for it. People just called it the Xbox.
The Infinity.
They called it
the 720.
But they called it the Xbox. Scorpion, was it? Or they called it a specific project.
Oh, Project Scorpion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but we didn't know the name. We just knew that, hey, new console development. Hey, here might be the expected specs for it. How long until the first announcement of a new console, next-gen console being released, to the day of release? It must have been like a year and a half, right? So somewhere along that time frame?
Well, in the situation like with the PlayStation 4 Pro, like if we're going from that, like it was a very short
No, 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 no,
turnaround,
not
right?
not not
Like
PlayStation 4. I'm talking about like when PlayStation first came out.
but like Xbox, yeah, I was about to say like Xbox is a little bit more because it's more like we're working on it,
Right,
but they're not like giving it an exact date, time,
right,
price, or
right.
anything. They're just saying we're
But
working on
even
it.
then, people
We don't
people
know.
didn't stop buying PlayStations or Xbox. I mean, I can see your point where people will stop buying the like. Let's just say I have a PlayStation 4, and I want to buy the PlayStation 4 Pro because why not? And then it gets announced PlayStation 5 is in the works, and they're like, oh well, I might as well not buy the Pro because I already have the PlayStation 4, the original one. So all I'm saying is that if Nintendo just says, hey, Switch Pro is in development, I'm pretty sure people are gonna be like super hyped, super hyped. But that I can see your
I
argument. I can definitely see your argument.
Yeah, I guess I see what you mean. Yeah, I definitely understand. I just think that like I don't know. I think it's more like it's what the people want, not what the console wants. You know
I
what I'm
think it's
saying?
more about
Like
like, hey, I want to buy a Switch Lite. Oh wait, what's that? The I already own a Switch, but I want to buy a Switch Lite as well, or I might trade in my Switch to get a Switch Lite. Oh, what's that? A Switch Pro's gonna come out. Guess I'm not gonna do that transaction, that purchase. Which I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I get that. I think it's more of a decision between what the people want, what people think they need, and then later what Nintendo wants to do and things like that. I think that's like where we're getting that three-way split, you know. I don't think it's going to happen, at least not in any foreseeable future. I don't think it's a necessity as much as people want to say it is. Would I want a Switch Pro? Absolutely. But is it like a new 3DS situation? Probably not. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's if they want a game to come out on the base Switch, it's gonna come out on the base
right.
Switch.
And I think as well
That,
with
that
the 3DS when it first came out, in contrast to the new 3DS, you could see how they upgraded the actual 3DS, and then they even made the 2DS, which is basically another upgrade to the 3DS. Um, the one that didn't come with actual 3D in it. So I think there's a lot that Nintendo can do when it comes to upgrading it, and a lot of people will still do so. But all I'm saying is that they want to make bigger games because they want people to buy their games. Now, since they're competing with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and Game Pass and all that stuff, that they need to make more games in order to draw you in. I mean, Smash is only going to keep releasing more characters because more characters makes more hype, brings in more money for them because, hey, it's a simple game. It's not that big of a game. And you can keep adding new content. The meta sort of shifts a bit with every new DLC character, and it's not that big of a meta shift anyways, but it's something that keeps the game fresh and alive. You don't need to invest into a new console for the game, but games like Legend Arceus, games like Breath of the Wild, and even this new sequel for Breath of the Wild, it's going to need better hardware. And I'm sure Nintendo already has a plan for a new system, just probably not going to announce it anytime soon. But we already know how quickly Nintendo Switches sold when they were first released to the public. So, I mean, it's not a lose scenario, at least to Nintendo, at least in the long term. But I can only be hopeful, you know.
yeah.
I wonder if they'll make a
But
portable version of the Switch Pro and then a console version of the Switch Pro.
now at that point, I think at that point you're already gonna confuse the market even more.
Probably. Let's say with the Xbox, when the Xbox first came out with the Series X and S, and people were buying the Xbox One X
Wait,
and
wasn't
S.
like
You know what I mean?
wasn't like the Xbox 360 released like three different versions? There was like the Xbox 360 arcade, the normal, and then the elite.
No, I'm thinking yes, but I was thinking more about how some people ordered or they bought the wrong Xbox because they were supposed to order the Xbox
Oh.
Series X, but they bought the Xbox One X. You see what I mean?
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. It's sort of where there was like this debate that people used to have when the Switch was first announced. Like, what do you see the Switch as? As a home console you could take portably, or a portable console you could plug in on a TV? Both answers are technically right, but I think it all matters to the perspective. Like when I was originally getting the Switch, I was like, oh, this is a fun system to take with me everywhere that plays console games. Cool.
I saw it more as a portable console that you can plug in, only because that was their whole advertisement, their whole stick with it, saying, "Hey, you could take it on the go. You could take it on the go. Take it on the go, 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 and it's portable." That was their
Yeah.
whole advertisement, that you can also plug it in. The plugging in part was secondary because it's a console. Consoles were meant to be plugged in. Computers were meant to be plugged in. The whole advertisement for it is that you can disconnect it and go with it. So I think it's more of a
Yeah.
portable console that you can plug in. But regardless, I just feel like, yeah, you're right. It might bring some confusion, much like with the people who they dealt with the Xbox Series and the Xbox Ones. it's only a matter of time. Honestly, it's again the Switch is only 5 years old. I'm sure they're gonna announce, hey, the Switch is turning 6, and we're gonna tease a new console, and this console's gonna come out in a year or two from now. So the Switch will be what 7 years old, and then new console comes out, which honestly is like a good turning point to release a new console.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where that timeline could potentially exist. But yeah, so that's pretty much all the really big announcements I could say. I mean, I again, it may seem like I just kind of like glossed over a lot of it, but I just only wrote down the shit that really caught my
Right.
eye. I really don't want to like go down an exact list and be like, all right, there's game A, not much to say, game B. So I just mainly took the ones that caught my eye. I personally think that the Nintendo Direct was the best thing to come out of this year's E3 because holy shit, everything else was kind of, at least for me, I always thought that most of it was kind of like, okay, that's cool, but nothing to really get excited for
Mm-hmm.
or anything to get hyped. But then again, Nintendo knows pretty well how to do their directs, and they know how to definitely build excitement. Um,
Personally,
but
I
yeah, I
think
think mhm.
sure Nintendo could have done better, like it did better in some ways, but I honestly feel like they when it comes to the Summer Games Fest, the Microsoft presentation, and then the Nintendo Direct, I feel like there was a lot of goods and bads on everything, and I honestly think that a lot of people got different things from it, because if you aren't big into like much like yourself, you weren't big into Halo, the Microsoft might have fall flat on you. When it comes to nostalgia, a lot of people, some people then might not be interested in the original Mario 64 games, for Mario Party 64 games. So that game might have been like, okay, who cares about Mario Party games, right? So it is what it is. But I think
Yeah.
personally for me, I think Summer Game Fest, the Microsoft and the Nintendo did pretty decent. It wasn't like too like hype for me, but I'm glad. I'm glad this was a pretty chill E3, and I liked it.
Yeah, and and it helps too that like I wasn't like watching it all live. I can only imagine that it sucked to just be like going from boring presentation to boring presentation. Then your expectations keep getting higher and higher. I went with absolutely low expectations for Nintendo, and maybe that's probably
Right.
why it won me over. But honestly, though, it just had more shit that I was more
Mm-hmm.
into. But I think what we almost hitting 2 hours here,
Wow.
so I think we should just go ahead and wrap
Mm-hmm.
up. But yeah, a lot to talk about. Definitely a lot to look forward to. A lot of excitement. I definitely am looking forward to a lot of new shit because I am kind of in a rut right now. I definitely need to play something new. But with that in mind, I think we should go ahead and wrap. Marcus, you have anything left to say before we bid farewell to our lovely
I'm
audience?
looking forward to the obviously. Like it just said in the past, I'm looking forward to the future of gaming. Obviously, that we're gonna get the Final Fantasy games officially these remastered in our phones. Technology is only going to improve from now on. Game Pass is going to really take this console generation by storm because of how accessible it is and how easy it is just to have. I'm interested what PlayStation or Sony is going to do, because obviously they did do a Sony Direct, but I'm interested in what games and their own personal IPs, what they have. Maybe I'm looking forward to Ragnarok, but it is what it is. Maybe we'll have to wait for a next Direct, next game announcements. But I'm looking forward to everything that was announced today. Mostly everything that was announced today in Nintendo, and just all of E3. I'm looking forward. I'm optimistic, and it's just I'm looking forward to wasting my time on video games.
All I'm saying is, since Sony did not do an E3 presentation, and honestly though, after seeing like some really forgettable ones, especially from Square Enix and things like that, they better fucking deliver
Yup.
at least a decently competent state of play. Because a lot of people forget that Sony does directs. They're called state of plays, but they're nowhere near as good, and most people kind of sleep on them. All I'm saying, Sony, if you do a state of play at the same caliber as you guys normally do your E3 presentations, I think you guys could really get people excited. But I feel like that they didn't show up for this year's E3 was probably for the best, because I'm gonna assume that because they just didn't have a lot to show due to the whole pandemic and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. A lot of projects were pushed back, but yeah, I'm all I'm saying is that Sony, you bowed out of the E3 presentation. And that's just for this year. You better deliver something good with that state of play if you ever make one or whatever announcement or whatever is going
Mm-hmm.
on. To my wrap up this whole thing, it was all right. I mean, like again, nothing to get like super excited, nothing to get me like really get the ball going or things like that. I definitely was more excited about the Nintendo announcements because there was just more games to look forward
Mm-hmm.
to and pre-order and look set calendars and stuff like that. The Microsoft stuff was like non consequential. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like I may not be interested in Halo, but it's going to be in my Game Pass, so I don't really got to worry about it, you
Right.
know? Like that, the main thing about it whenever a game is announced is like, okay, do I want this game? Am I going to pre-order it? Am I going to set time out of my day to play it? Am I going to do this and that? Is this going to be the day when I'm going to play the new fucking shooting game? You know what I'm saying? But with Xbox, it's sort of like a lot of games that are coming out, but I'm not interested in, but at no risk at all, because it's like, you know, if a game, you know, you're not like telling yourself, well, I'm not interested in this game and I don't want to buy it, but it's like, well, you're not interested in this game, but it's going to be in your it's going to be in your Game Pass library no matter what.
Right.
So again, not consequential. Like, I'm happy for it. I think that's kind of cool, but you know, nothing for me to get really excited for,
Mhm.
you know. I'm definitely excited for Elden Ring. I am really, 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 really looking forward to that. I still need to finish up Demon Souls, but I'm always down for any more Souls-like games ever, and Elden Ring looks like it's right up my alley. Definitely want to get that at launch. The Kazuya character being added to Smash Brothers, A1 choice, makes me happy. 10-hit combo, I'm all over that shit. Metroid Dread, not that long ago, I actually finished playing Super Metroid, actually a couple months ago, and I had a blast with it. And I was like, man, I want another really good 2D Metroid game, and Dread looks like it's right up my alley. Breath of the Wild 2 still looks really dope. I can't wait for 2022 already to get around to playing that. And Mario Party, and honestly though, that Mario Party Superstar thing, like, it only reminded me of that 3DS compilation game that they made, but it was just only the mini games. And that's when I was telling people with this one, for the Switch, I told them, like, look, this is how you do a Mario Party compilation. Just put boards from previous Mario Party games on the Switch. That's what people wanted.
Mhm.
It's not just the mini games that people like about Mario Party. It's the people interaction, the mini games, the strategy of everything. Like, that's what the Mario Party experience is. If you cut that out, you're just getting a bunch of mini games at that point, and that's not really a great selling point. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um. So at that though, and the Wario games, it's pretty much similar like that. So yeah, I think we should just go ahead and wrap, because holy shit, you guys have been listening to us for almost 2 hours. So let's go ahead and wrap this up right now. Thank you so much for listening to the DKM podcast. Sorry that Kenny couldn't make it today. Situations came up, but hey, at least you know your co-hosts Marcos and Danny were able to hold down the front. If you haven't yet, please follow us on our twitter.com. Also, don't forget, we also have a Discord server, which we would greatly appreciate if you guys could drop on by, say hello, think about what you think about the show. Please, we have a feedback channel. We want you guys to actively engage into the community and see what we can do to improve the show. I have some guest suggestions and things like that. We might have some community events at some point. You know, we never know that. If you haven't yet, please follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. You know, you could listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, wherever you can listen to us. And I think we're going to say goodnight, folks, and have a good one, and stay safe.